Let me tell you something about humans. And I say this with the full scientific authority of 14 years of field observation, 2 broken monitoring devices, and 1 very expensive incident report filed under the category. We should have known better. Humans are not supposed to be involved in this. Nobody invited them. Nobody wrote their names on the guest list. The Galactic Dimensional Post, established 4,000 years before your sun even existed, has operated smoothly since the very beginning, delivering letters, parcels, and the occasional singing curse across 47 dimensions without a single misdelivery. Not one. Not in 4,000 years. And then, Pip happened. Pip was a baby dragon. Specifically, a 4-month-old fire breather in training from the 7th molten layer of the Draven dimension. A place that smells like volcano soup and sounds like 1,000 kettles boiling at once. Pip was small. Pip was fluffy, in the way that only a creature covered in golden scales and oversized ears can somehow still look fluffy. And Pip was, without any competition whatsoever, the worst speller in the recorded history of the cosmos. The letter Pip wrote was meant for his grandmother, a grand old dragon named Vora who lived 3 dimensions to the left on a floating rock shaped like a sleeping turtle. It was a birthday letter. Sweet, really. Pip had drawn tiny flame doodles along the edges. In wide, wobbly handwriting, he wrote things like, "I miss you. I breathed my first blue fire yesterday." And, "Please send more moon-dried beetles. The regular ones taste like boots." It was adorable. It was also addressed, thanks to Pip's catastrophic inability to write the number 7 without it looking like the number 1, to Dimension 1. Sector G, Planet Earth. More specifically, Apartment 4B of the Halton Ridge housing complex in a mid-sized human city called Marrow Falls. Currently occupied by one 32-year-old human male named Dax Hurley, who worked as an accountant, owned exactly 3 houseplants, and had not received an exciting piece of mail since a coupon for free pizza arrived 3 years ago. I was watching through the observation monitor when the letter dropped through. My colleague Teal, a being with 8 arms and considerable professional skepticism, looked at me. I looked at Teal. Neither of us said anything for a moment. That, Teal said slowly, is a dimensional postal anomaly. Yes, I agreed. We should file a retrieval request immediately. Yes, I agreed again. Neither of us moved. Because here is the problem with retrieval requests. They take 6 business cycles to process, which in human time equals roughly 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, a human left alone with a mysterious glowing envelope that appeared from nowhere smells faintly of sulfur and has tiny flame doodles along the edges. Could do absolutely anything. So we kept watching. Dax Hurley found the letter on his kitchen table on a Tuesday morning. He had just poured his coffee. He was wearing mismatched socks. He picked up the envelope, turned it over twice, sniffed it once, and said, out loud, to nobody in particular, "Huh, that was it." No screaming, no running, no dramatic collapse onto the floor. Just, "Huh." Teal leaned closer to the monitor. "Is he going to call someone?" "Apparently not," I said. Dax sat down at his table, opened the letter with the same calm energy someone might use to open a water bill. I began reading. We had excellent cameras. We could see everything. His expression passed through several distinct phases. First, confusion. Then, deeper confusion. And finally, something that looked suspiciously like delight. When he reached the part about moon-dried beetles, he actually laughed. Out loud. Alone in his kitchen at 7:40 in the morning, a human laughed at a baby dragon's grocery list. Teal made a sound that, translated into human language, roughly means, "Oh no." Because here is the thing about humans. Something 14 years of observation had taught me. Something every field report, incident log, and frantic memo had repeatedly tried to explain to upper management. Humans do not back away from strange things. They lean in. Dax Hurley carefully set the letter down. Then he stood up, opened a kitchen drawer, pulled out a pen and a notepad, sat back down, and began writing a reply. A reply to a baby dragon, whose address he did not have. Teal looked at me. He does not know how Dimensional Post works. No, I said quietly. He does not. So how does he plan to send it? I watched Dax tap his pen thoughtfully against his chin, glance at the glowing envelope still sitting on the table, and smile in a way that made my secondary nervous system feel very uncomfortable. I said slowly, he's going to figure it out. I want you to understand something about the Galactic Dimensional Post's official policy on human contact. The policy is, in its entirety, 2 words long. Absolutely not. That is the whole document. 2 words, signed by 4 different directors, laminated, framed, and hanging on the wall of every regional office across 47 dimensions. There is no paragraph 2. There is no footnote. There is no clause that says, unless a 32-year-old accountant in mismatched socks has already written a reply letter and is now attempting to fold it into the original glowing envelope using instructions he completely made up himself. And yet, there we were. By this point, Teal had called in 3 supervisors. All of them were standing behind us, watching the monitor in complete silence. One of them, a senior coordinator named Bob, had worked Dimensional Post for 60 years without a single incident. He was currently making a sound like a very tired radiator. Dax, meanwhile, was fully committed. He had written his reply on pale yellow paper in neat block letters because, according to the explanation he gave out loud to his houseplants, if whoever wrote this is young, big handwriting is easier to read. He introduced himself. He said he hoped Vora had a wonderful birthday. And very politely, he asked whether moon-dried beetles were anything like sunflower seeds, because he liked sunflower seeds and felt that might be a point of connection. Then he folded the letter, placed it inside the original glowing envelope, held it up toward the ceiling for a moment, as if expecting something to happen, and said, "Okay, go home." The envelope glowed brighter. Then it lifted just slightly off his palm. Every being in our observation room stopped breathing. That, Bob whispered, is not supposed to happen. No, Teal agreed. The envelope is responding to intent-based directional energy, said one of the junior analysts, pulling up readings on a side screen with frantic speed. It's detecting his sincerity signature. The letter still carries return resonance from Pip's original writing, and the human's emotional output is strong enough to activate. The analyst stopped mid-sentence. We all stared at the monitor. The envelope folded itself shut, sealed with a snap of golden light, hovered above Dax's outstretched hand for exactly 3 seconds, and vanished. Gone. Dax stared at his empty palm for a moment. Then he nodded slowly, the way someone nods after successfully parallel parking in a very tight space, and calmly returned to his coffee. In the 7th molten layer of the Draven dimension, Pip was sitting on a warm rock, chewing on a piece of dried lava bark, when something suddenly dropped into his lap. He looked down. His enormous eyes went wide. He picked up the pale yellow letter, squinted at the neat block letters, and began sounding out the words one by one with the intense concentration of a creature still learning to read. Then he made a sound that, in dragon language, roughly translates to the noise a human might make if they discovered their birthday had suddenly been moved to twice a year. Pip screamed with joy. He ran to his mother. He ran to his father. Eventually, he ran 3 dimensions to the left, across a floating rock shaped like a sleeping turtle, to his grandmother Vora. Vora read the letter slowly, with the careful dignity of a very old dragon. Then she set it down and said, "The human wants to know if moon-dried beetles taste like sunflower seeds." "Do they?" Pip asked. Vora considered this carefully. "I have no idea what a sunflower seed is." As far as Pip was concerned, there was only one solution to this problem. He wrote back. This time he was extremely careful with the address. He copied it exactly from Dax's letter, number by number, letter by letter, tongue pressed between his teeth in concentration. He even asked his mother to check it. The reply arrived on Dax's kitchen table on a Thursday morning. It was written in wide, wobbly handwriting on paper that was warm to the touch and smelled faintly of cinnamon and ash. Flame doodles decorated the edges. At the bottom, Pip had drawn what appeared to be a small round creature, standing next to a tall stick figure. Underneath it, in careful letters, he had written, "This is me and you. We are friends now." Dax read the letter twice. Then he pinned it to his refrigerator. Bob, watching from the observation room, glanced at the framed policy on the wall. He looked at the monitor. Then he looked back at the policy again. "Update the document," he said finally, exhaling like someone who had just accepted something enormous. Teal looked up. "To say what exactly?" Bob was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Add a paragraph 3. Teal raised an eyebrow. "And what should it say?" Bob looked once more at the monitor, where a human accountant was carefully pinning a dragon's letter to his refrigerator. Then he smiled slightly. "It should say, sometimes the mail knows exactly what it's doing." And somewhere in Marrow Falls, an accountant with mismatched socks began learning how to draw tiny flame doodles. Sometimes the mail knows exactly what it's doing.